Greetings, Summoners. Cosmic here, and welcome back to another Battle Spirit Saga video. And today, tournament season is in full swing, and we have the top 16 list from this past weekend's webcam event hosted by PLAYTCG. And then, of course, we got Ohio coming this weekend for a grand open. More online regionals just got announced, or online web events, I should say, just got announced for, I think, Oceania and Europe. There's a lot going on, right? So I do have videos other videos I want to do, but I was traveling this past weekend, and I have like the discussion around where is False Gods going, you know, how do these new spoilers line up? So a lot more to come, but gameplay video to return, sooner or later. I'm just trying to, do my own testing and keep up to date on all of these videos. So I love that we're in tournament season now, but there is just so much to talk about. It is definitely difficult to keep up with all the time. So here's just the overall breakdown. You can see, as expected, we have a lot of Rex, a lot of purple, and there's some other interesting stuff that's kind of mixed in there. So as always, these videos are just going to be talking about the number of unique different archetypes. And then, of course, the full top 16 list will be on Eggman's website. I'll put a link down to that in the pinned comment below, so please make sure to go check that out. But without further ado, let's get into the lists themselves, and starting it off with a wonderful white-purple hybrid from Jesse Smith of Team Icewall. So huge shout out to those guys. They have just been putting in a lot of work since the launch events. They've had multiple top cut finishes, and they've just been having a lot of fun with the game. So really, really, really great to see one of them make the, cross that line, get the champion mark, get that sweet soul core, and all the other, prizing that goes with it. And of course, we're going to see them in Ohio. So really looking forward to kind of what they come up with and what they've been brewing. And I gotta say, the one thing that really stands out from this list that I know when Prim was playing against me, he was playing a more traditional heavy white list with Bridget in it, which I didn't actually love all that much. But now we have the Bridget in this version of the list, which is really just going to be like the best possible target in the entire world for Beldegor, right? Because you get to freeze something, bounce something, kill something, block something off one spirit. That's pretty cracked. Now, obviously, there's a little bit of setup that goes into that. There is the discussion around, if they just kill it during the main step, like Rex can do very, very easily. Yes, you're still bouncing something, right? There are some considerations to be made, but against a lot of decks, getting that effectively 4-for-1 is going to stop a lot of people in their tracks, and I wouldn't be surprised if that had come up quite a bit during the event itself. Other than that, of course, we're going to have things like our Beldegor for just the early game removal. We have our Mordred, which is just good for the core stripping, and obviously the 4/5s are so important for Beldegor to come back. So we have Cavalier, Bridget, and Mordred rounding out those slots. And then just the general good top end stuff that we've seen so much, right? We have the full-on curse combo package with the 2 bishop, 2 curse dragon, 1 more of each in the side. We have the Enterprise and elephants. So, and then, another elephant in the side as well, right? So a lot of different variation he could swap into depending on the matchup. And then the Nexus count being the Mothership, which is really interesting. Now, I do also have to give a shout out to Corpfish and Eckhart going all the way back to the launch event, who played a similar list. And I got to see firsthand just how annoying, because they soul crushed me the night before on a very similar list with Mothership in purple. And I forget what the other splash. I know they had Bridget, because that card haunts me in my dreams at this point. I know they had some other white cards. I forget what. Obviously, Dream Bomb and Suppression being like the 2 key ones you want to have in there. But the Mothership just getting your cores back is insane. Obviously, now in this version of the list, we also have an Axe Spider to protect it. So if we're going against a slower matchup, now we can protect our Mothership, and we can ramp extra cores on our opponent every single turn, even if they don't hit us. A lot of that just lines up well if you draw the right parts of the deck to help against certain matchups. So I really like this list. I know there's been a lot of, if you follow us on Twitter, again, at Cosmic Plays, or huge shout out to BSS Top Decks, there have been quite a few purple and white lists kind of out there that people are like, okay, well, it's a local event, it's kind of whatever. But now that I think we've seen it just go 7-0 in this event, I think more people will be like, okay, well, let's build this in, try it out. Now, yes, it is a, kind of deviation from the normal purple control decks, but it is still a lot of purple control in its heart. But it is still something new that we're seeing this late in the meta, that it's really awesome to see kind of a couple, key choices come into play a huge role here in helping Jesse Smith make the win for this event. And then, of course, Axe Spider just being Axe Spider is Axe Spider. I don't know what else we need to say about that card, right? It's a good dude doing good things. Moving into top 4, and I had to call this out separately here, because I would feel bad that, yes, in the image, I did kind of like loop it all together. But there is like a pointed difference and comments to be made here versus like the white purple control deck and then the top 4 by Matt, which was just like far more traditional purple control. Both are very good. Both obviously have some pros and cons against them in terms of what matchups you're going into. Like the heavy purple reductions, obviously going to make it a lot easier to play your cursed dragons and your bishops and all that good stuff. But the key thing to note here is that they do both still have that bishop and cursed dragon combo. And on top of that, as you'll see from Eggman's website, all of top 4 was purple. They were all more or less the same exact deck, obviously being purple control, Jesse winning with a variant of it, but a lot of just Beldegor purple good stuff with bishop and cursed dragon, which since the launch events has been a very good deck. So not surprised, right? It's something that continues to perform in this meta. And then I do got to give a shout out to the Dark King Snake Pendacles here, being as a 2-of, just being that he can kill anything by himself as long as they don't have the armor purple with the enter and swing combo. And then the Angelic Pressure main here are really interesting just for a counter to the Fulas that some people might have main deck as well. Getting into some interesting sideboard options here. Bloody Rain for white aggro. Feral Slash just being so good against, well, I guess some purple variants too, right? We've seen more like the Rotting Swamp come about, but primarily against yellow. Please don't beat up our Nexuses. It's very rude. And then also the Turbo Rex for just being able to bounce some stuff against some problematic white spirits just to get them off the board and hopefully, help you swing for game. So Turbo Rex, I think, is a card we're going to be seeing a lot more of in Ohio, be it, yes, it is a sideboard slot, but the card just does a lot for what we need it to do. So Turbo Rex, it's $1. It's not going to be like, $5 all of a sudden, but if it is, it probably tops out at like $3, right? Like everyone can get this card. It's very easy. Yes, it is an X rare, but I think it's been so under the radar for so much of set 1, and who knows where it's going to line up with set 2, of course. But I do like its utility that it offers from having that constant on bounce effect, which can provide enough disruption for a lot of decks. So again, very good, solid, more traditional purple control deck that, yes, while similar enough that, in a future video, it'd probably just get lumped together. But I felt like I had to call it out just for the sake of this video. And, who knows where these lists might evolve from this point going forward. But the good stuff purple is, in fact, good stuff, right? It reminds me a lot of Fabled Beast, where it's like, yes, you can do a lot of the good stuff Fabled Beast and kind of splash whatever. Now, obviously, purple does lend itself a bit better into the splashability because you just have that, oopsies back end of Cursed Dragon and Bishop you can rely on if needed, where yellow doesn't really have anything, and that's why we're splashing white. And a lot of the newer dedicated Alice control lists. So congrats again to all of top 4, which is all purple all the time. But it's kind of what expected, right? We're getting this late in the meta, a lot of purple, a lot of red. Good to see. Going on from there, we do have Juan with their Rex list, making it a top 8. And yes, a lot of the Rex decks in this case were very similar. They usually have about 4 cards off from their main deck, depending on, what they want to metagame against, like Suppression, Dream Mom, were kind of like the 2 that were going in and out, plus or minus 1 card. And what's interesting here, especially in this list, is Core Drain. So notably, good for the mirror because, no one's going to expect that game 1. And just Core Drain being able to reduce something by 3 can be very, very good, right? Like this hitting a dual eagle is also very nice. So this is effectively Volcanic Break 5, 6, and 7 against yellow, against the stuff that you want to hit. So very, very interesting tech choice. And again, I think this just goes back to whatever you want those 3, slots to be. Have at it. But I think overall the core deck is going to remain the same. And also the Flame Ray, I guess I should say, is another tech choice here, which doesn't always make the cut. We have the Volcanics that are missing from this list in particular. But right, again, so we have about like a 40 card, I guess like a 42 card list everybody plays with. And then those last 8 slots are kind of whatever you want at the end of the day. But Rex doing Rex things, no surprise here. Just getting that early game Gigano Rex down can be very, very aggressive against a lot of decks that just don't have a good out to it, at least in game 1. And having that power threshold means that you can usually get over the wall of white pretty easily, especially if you draw into that second Gigano, or sometimes it's just a couple of Scorched Battlefields and the power values stack up good enough to where you're now forcing them to have an answer because your Dilo is now a 13K, which is really, really nice. So sideboarding again, we have those Volcanic Canyons, we have the Derm Dino, which has been a staple for these red decks for quite some time, and Feral Slash because, well, just everyone hates on yellow, I guess. It's I love to see more people respecting it. Also hate to see it because, you know, it just crushes my dreams and makes the entire yellow deck fall apart very, very easily. But good card is good. So glad to see more of it. And we'll likely see more of Feral Slash in set 2, depending on how I think some of these Nexus cards will line up. Moving on from there for our top 8 list, we have a Fabled Beast. Shout out to Trevor for their top 8 finish. And this one is going to be more of a very standard, one of 2 more standard lists that we've seen for Fabled Beast, right? So now we have seen a pretty solid divide between, are you more of a Alice control list where you take out a lot of the 2-drops, really focus in on the mid-range Fabled Beast package, or do you still want God Beast to, well, be a card? And then also Calamity Beast Pegasaurus here. If you have God Beast and Pegasaurus online, that can have a pretty deadly combo against a lot of decks right now, especially with Axe Spider floating around, you know, wanting to keep their things higher up. So there is a, you know, reason to have a 2-drop focus again if you are expecting a lot of this deck going into, or I should say the Axe Spider deck going into the Ohio event. Personally, I'm expecting just a sea of red and purple because we have like 400 players, and that's just what we've seen from previous events, or even this top 16, right? Lots of red, lots of purple, and then just a sprinkling, as it were, of white and yellow. So we'll see what makes it in the cut in Ohio, but my bet is a lot of purple, a lot of red. Going to some sideboard, right? Flamefish for more anti-aggro, Elephants for if you just want to have that purple game and get a little bit more flexibility. Feral Slash from the mirror, Starbloods to draw for more anti-purple. So, you know, we can see a very dedicated choice here for having a lot more of hate for purple in the sideboard, because if they are playing, you know, the full-on Curse Dragon Bishop combo, it does sometimes, unfortunately, just boil down to who has the bigger board wipe strategy, right? Like your Exhaust Nexuses versus their combo. Problem is they will generally just still outvalue and outdraw you unless you hit like, oh, cool, I got all 4 Paradise early. Look at all this value I get, right? It's a very hard matchup to if you don't have Elephants and if you don't have an extra Nexus online, especially if they're playing the Burning Force variants of purple. Whew, it is just a very rough spot to be. Like watching Hippos just die freely at Beldegor and stuff never feels good. So, of course, the suppressions here really maining or focusing on, I should say, against kind of that anti-red tech, a lot of sideboard for purple. And I think that's just kind of where you have to be right now, right? I think there's a consideration to be made about what is your main deck flex spots for, and you just dedicate them to red or purple. That's the reality of it, right? So overall, do like this list. It's, of course, one that's been floating around for a while now in terms of like the more 2-drop focus versions versus some later ones that are more Alice control. But who knows what we might see in this next set. Obviously, we got a couple more Blessed. We got a 2-drop. Fabled Beast. So there's some interesting stuff that we can do to some of these numbers. Maybe we want the 2-drop Fabled Beast that can fit better into this list because it kind of checks all the boxes, right? For God Beast, for Paradise. So that might make a role and bring us back to the more 2-drop variant, but we'll see. The Nexus and the Magic cards of set 2, which are not spoiled at the time of this recording, are very, very important, and we'll have to see kind of what they give us. Now, of course, getting into the top 16 and getting to see some of these white decks. So we did have a more traditional white control variant pop up, but it's like a mix between the Axe Spider Spellslinger versus more white control that we've seen. And there was another Axe Spider list that did make the cut, right? So we've seen that, but I really want to highlight again here, just like the more traditional white control decks are still being very much a thing, but I want to give a huge shout out to Leon for the Snowflocken main and the Cannon Beast main with the anti-purple tech to just really kind of, edge against that. I'm going to be seeing a lot of dinos, a lot of purple. So I really want to give a huge shout out to their main deck dedication to those 2 cards in particular, right? Because there are quite a number of matchups where it's just like, hey, this doesn't do what we need it to do. But we have the Axe Spider, which can still give you a lot of block value, Valkyrie Mist, and Buffalo Bills for bouncing. The 4 of Elk that just says, hey, we want to get that life burn effect in, right? So let's make sure we get that damage. And then, of course, just Elephants to round out the top of it. So really huge shout out to this version kind of, having a heavier spell count and maybe has a few more out of the sideboard, which could really lean into it. But this does play like more of that middle ground between a white control version versus the Axe Spider Spellslinger if it had more spells. But where we've seen the other like more traditional white control decks have a lot heavier of a top end. So I really just wanted to showcase again this just for the main deck considerations that it had, and then also just how much, you know, of the spectrum of white mid-range / control / Axe Spider decks that we've seen. And overall, Axe Spider just continues to be a very, very flexible card that I think a lot of people are very happy with in terms of if you're playing white. Obviously, maybe not so happy if you're playing against it because it can be pretty annoying. And then the last one, just really quick to throw a note to, is the white aggro list. So again, this is one that we've seen time and time again. Very cheap deck to put together. It continues to make like top 32 or top 16 from all the way from Palm Springs to launch events, right? Like this is one that's just going to continue to pop up time and time again, and something that you just have to know about and respect and realize that, yes, even in the Rex decks, when you see them play these 1-drops and you know that they're on white aggro, you got to go, all right, I'm stopping. I'm not going to attack you. I'm just going to wall up, grind you out of resources through Burning Forest, Canyon, Gigano Rex, all that good stuff, and slowly but surely whittle down their hand, because once they get low enough, they don't have a way to refill it. Yes, they might get you with that turn 2 regain combo and you just die out of nowhere, right? That's just how it is. Or you might have the Dream Bomb for your key stuff, right? Like there are some game plans where it's just like, oh, well, they had it. If they have it, right? Getting 4 Valkyrie Mist and 4 Dream Bomb in a deck is pretty spicy. And if you attack at the wrong time and it's a Dream Bomb, because spoiler, look at the list, it's usually what they're going to set 10 out of 10 times. You can just lose the game on the spot. And I have to remind myself of that sometimes when I'm playing against these decks, that I kind of forget that Dream Bomb gets set a lot of times. And I'll have like, you know, 2 or 3 guys on board plus a Nexus in yellow, and I'm like, oh shoot, now my Nexus is getting bounced. I have to dedicate a whole next turn off because they were able to Dream Bomb me. So a lot of consideration there about, you know, which way you want to build out these lists. And I will say that it might not be getting the most tops out of the colors, but I love how much variation there is in white within set 1, and hopefully we'll see more of that in set 2. But I have been pretty happy overall with where set 1 has landed. So with that, that is our top 16 recap for this list. Of course, obviously the Axe Spider Spell Slinger list made it in there as well, which we just covered in the last video. All the lists will be on Eggman's website, so do go check that out. But otherwise, hope to see everybody in Ohio this weekend. Hopefully going to try to get out a couple other videos this week. I'm just trying to catch up with everything else that's been going on top of getting my own playtesting time in. So I can say after July, lots of videos because I'll have a lot more time not being on the road as much as I am, other than some stuff specifically for Saga that's coming up in July that I can't talk about yet, but lots of good things ahead. I'm very excited to get to Ohio and play, and then obviously very excited for set 2. Probably the most, if I'm being honest, I'm mostly excited just for set 2 at this point to drop at the end of next month, because I'm so desperately craving some new cards to play with. And of course, once full set 2 spoilers are out, we'll get back to versus videos and try to highlight some of those decks as well. So with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching again. Hopefully you enjoyed this recap for the videos. Of course, if there's any other like topic or discussion videos, let me know in the comments below. But otherwise, until the next video, stay safe, stay hydrated, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.